we are now.
So Clifton.
Yeah, man. What's happening?
You know, I can look. I can not look. I can look. I can not look.
Okay.
So, we're going to go see a very interesting guy today. It's, Michael Morgan.
Yep.
And he has one of those jobs that everybody in the world knows somebody has that job. They just don't know who those people are. He's a toxicologist.
Okay.
And he worked for the pharmaceutical companies. And he was involved with getting the plan for drug approval through the FDA. That's what he did.
Ah, okay.
He's not been doing it for 15 years or so, but there was a time when he could watch TV and see these ads on TV, and he would say, I got involved with that drug getting approved. I got involved with that drug getting approved. So he, had a pretty cool job. And boy, do they live in a gorgeous spot. So we're going to be interviewing him in Elk Park.
That sounds like a deal to me.
So Michael, you live here, dude. This is the view you see every day.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you. Good to see you. We're here today to talk to you about what you did for a living as a profession. Before we get started, though, I got to say right off the bat, you hurt my soul. Because I make those kind of chairs and you didn't want to sit in one.
Well, you kind of sit down a little bit.
You do. You go down in them, and sometimes I've seen some relatively tough times. That one's not too deep though, but I've seen them deep. But anyway, tell me, just as a way to introduce you, tell me, where are you from originally?
I lived all over the country.
No, originally. You were born in one place.
I was born at Air Force Base in Utah.
Okay, Utah. And then you lived all over.
Yeah, I was an Air Force brat.
Okay. And then you got your education where?
Murray State University in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
And Ole Miss.
Now, when you were at Murray State, was the Boy Scout Lone Scout Museum there?
I don't know.
Don't know. Okay. All right. So, you tell us what you did as a profession, how you made your living.
Okay. The early years, I worked in testing laboratories, generating data for drug companies.
Okay.
They ultimately went to the FDA for drug approval. And then I moved up into management and then found that I missed the science.
Okay.
And so I started consulting and using what I knew to help drug companies get to drugs.
In the lab, what exactly were you doing? You were doing it for the FDA?
No.
Or for the drug company?
For the drug company.
Okay.
And that was testing drug applications, potential drugs for toxicity. For almost all of us take drugs. The older we are, the more we take.
Right.
And what people don't realize is they're all approved by the FDA or they're not allowed to be sold in the United States.
Right.
And there are two applications that are required for the FDA to allow that. One is called an IND, which is initial drug application. And the final one is an NDA, which is the new drug application. And so all the data that go in there have to support their evaluation of two things, safety and risk. That's what it all comes down to.
Okay.
It's benefit versus risk. And those data come from, in major pharmaceutical companies, it comes from their own laboratories. In smaller companies, more and more of that is contracted out.
Okay, so there's what length of period does this go on before the drug is approved?
Quite often it's 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
And multi-millions of dollars.
Okay.
So within the approval process of the NDA, which is the final approval, there are 3 sections. It's a document that runs about sometimes 2,000-3,000 pages. In the early days, we used to have to provide 20 copies of the FDA. We would have to lease trucks, semis, and load them on the semis and take them to the FDA, literally.
Okay.
Then we got to where we could do it on CD, and now it's DVDs, and so it's gotten a lot better. But the point is that there are 3 sections within that. One is non-clinical testing, then there's clinical testing, and then there's chemistry. Those three things.
What's that third one?
Chemistry.
Okay.
And what you alluded to is the fact that you have to show the FDA what drug form is being manufactured, how it's being manufactured, how it's purified, the dosage form that it's put into, like pills or liquids or gels or IVs or inhalants, all kinds of different ways to administer drugs. You have to specify that all clearly, including safety procedures around storing. How long is it storable before?
That's a little bit of writing.
All that little writing.
Yeah,
saying
okay.
After expired is such and such. All
Yeah.
that's worked out in advance and
Right.
given to the FDA prior to approval.
Right, okay.
And then the government has given them the power of enforcement as well. And so they go out and they audit all the laboratories that are doing the testing, all the clinical trials that are going on, and they audit all the manufacturing places that are manufacturing. And I don't want to get too deep into this, but there's a good manufacturing practices. They're all spelled out in the government regs. You can find them online.
Okay.
And they have to follow out some manufacturing. And if they are audited and they find out something wrong, they'll close them down. So where the FDA gets its powers from the Food and Drug Labeling Act, which was established by Congress, and it specifies that no drug can be sold in the United States unless FDA approves its label. Now, the term label includes the package insert. And that's that little piece of paper that comes in the box every time you get a drug that's been approved. And it's got that little bitty writing on there.
Yeah.
That is part of the label. And they have to approve all of that, including the name of the drug. And so the toxicologist has generated probably 60% of those data that are on that in the first place. And it tells you, may cause cancer in rats, but not mice, or it may interfere with this drug or that drug. It may or has not been tested for effect on unborn fetus. All of that information comes from the toxicology profile that had to be submitted early in the development process. I was responsible for making sure that my laboratories were all following. I was inspected by the FDA.
So the inspector comes in and a team or just one person?
A team of 3 to 5 people, and usually stay a week.
Stay a whole week?
Oh yeah.
And you keep on working?
You have to.
Oh yeah,
you can't stop studying.
Well, right. I understand that.
Yeah.
So is it kind of awkward or?
Oh, it's very, very stressful because you have to imagine that if the FDA team leaves and says there's a big problem, then they'll shut you down, or they'll let the studies keep going, but your clients will all go away. You had no clients coming in, no drug company would ever risk their drug coming to you, so you're dead. And the same with the manufacturing. If you start making a mistake and the FDA compliant people find it, you can lose your company. All your people people go to jail. You don't want that to happen.
Walking on eggshells there.
So both organizations hire their own group of police that are specialists in quality assurance groups, what they're called. And they spend their day going through making sure and auditing everybody's following all the protocols, doing everything right, and everybody's got the proper training for the job that they have, the airflows are right, the temperatures are correct.
And I bet you can't take them out to lunch either, can you?
No. And you can't even eat at the same table. Okay. I offered one of them.
You go in the same restaurant, you can't eat at the same
separate table.
Okay.
That's true.
So the average person on the street, if you say toxicology, they're going to think, oh, somebody's trying to poison somebody.
Exactly.
So that's what you're trying to prevent.
Right.
Okay.
I remember going through customs, coming out of Canada one day, and the guy says, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm a toxicologist." This was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you know what that is?" And he says, "Yeah, I do crossword puzzles." Okay. So it's getting out. But back then it was very, very new.
Right.
I was finishing up my PhD in pharmacology at Ole Miss, and they brought in the first toxicologist, PhD toxicologist, to start the tox department. And I looked at all the people that were applying for jobs, and there were like 20 jobs per person applying. in that field.
Oh, yeah,
because
sure,
of the
sure.
FDA really wanted everybody to start following GLPs. So I switched over to that and added another 2 years to my my college career and got my PhD in toxicology, and then 3 years later got board certification.
So I hate to do this. I hate to ask you.
Go ahead.
Kind of personal.
Yeah.
So Ole Miss, that's got the lab down there where they test the marijuana, right?
Yeah, actually,
You wander by there and see what's going on. Once in a
No, I
while?
worked on it.
Oh, you worked on
Yeah.
it. Look at there.
I was on a research scholarship to help pay for my tuition.
Okay.
And they had this big field that they grew marijuana in, and we applied various pesticides at various levels to see which would be the best ones to kill the crops in Mexico with helicopters flying
Oh, I
over near the
see.
border, and
Oh, it's that kind of thing.
and splitting different varieties to see which ones did more THC and which ones had less, and so forth.
Not like a vape place where you go in and
No,
vape,
no,
see
this
which
is
was the best.
This is way before that. This is
Okay.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the year, then we had to go in and cut down with machetes, cut down the whole field,
Oh, yeah.
and then burn it. We had, a couple of policemen with machine guns watching us and checking our costs.
So you cut the whole stalk in one time? Because I cropped tobacco a couple times.
We did, but this
So you,
again,
you don't do the leaves and then
50
just
years
get it all
ago,
at one
it was
time.
getting a big pile and burn it.
Yeah.
And get-
You get upwind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a funny story related to that. One night, about 3 in the morning, hearing a cop outside the fence, this long, big fence with barbed wire at the top, heard this whirring sound, repeated whirring sound. We went around there, and they found this guy with a fishing rod and a grapple hook, and he was throwing it over the fence and grappling marijuana plants.
Trying to pull up a plant.
Yeah. So, and they got him in his stash and brought him in, and they asked me to weigh it because anything over a half an ounce was not a misdemeanor anymore. And so they let him go. They said, "You're no longer a student at Ole Miss. Don't get out of the state right now." He said, "Goodbye."
By sundown, huh?
Yeah.
The old get out of town by sundown thing.
I tried to get the fishing rod, but they wouldn't do it. The serious nature of getting a drug approved. These drug companies spend, billions of dollars in developing when you get to the final stage. And you've got to go into the FDA with this big meeting and see if you're going to approve the NDA. And I'm sitting there, there's like 9 PhDs and MDs deciding yes or no on this drug.
Gotcha.
There's a little bit of pressure,
So, and this is you talking to them.
Yeah.
You're doing the presentation.
Yeah, at that stage I had written the NDA, a third of it.
Okay.
And I had signed off on everything. And they wouldn't allow the physicians to start any clinical trials until I signed off saying everything that's presented here is true and valid and done well.
So are you a PhD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Board certified.
So you could look them straight in the eye. You didn't have to.
Well, they required that. They didn't want to take,
Yeah, right.
the president
Gotcha.
of the drug company, he might be biased.
I got it.
I had nothing in there. I get paid to do the studies and evaluate and write the reports, and that's it. That's all I get. So,
Did they call you doctor on the job?
of course, yeah.
Okay.
So then you actually started your own company.
Yeah.
Now, how big was the company,
Well, pretty much it was just me because I could work out of my office, and I was in Maryland, fairly close to where the FDA
Okay.
is. And companies would call me. See, the startup companies, they usually start with pharmacologists. They come up with a drug, they want to get it tested, and then they get a chemist in and work on various things. And then they add staff. But if you're only working on one drug or 2 drugs, you're not making enough money to support a full-time toxicologist. So they contract that out. So they look for a consultant to do that. So I go in and meet with them, evaluate where they are, and say, all right, we need to do this testing, this. I'll write up the protocols, I'll place the studies in the labs, I'll get it done for you, I'll take it to the FDA, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next.
Okay.
So I just fit in as a piece of a smaller company. And then it got to where a consulting firm in Bethesda, who had a group of consultants that did clinical and a group of consultants that did chemistry, but they didn't have a toxicologist. So they started sending me out their work. And finally they just said, look, why don't you, you're almost working full time, why don't you just come work here? I said, all right, but I'm going to work for my own company. And they said, well, that's fine. We'll handle the billing. We'll get you staff. You can hire your own staff. We'll get all the research documents come in.
Oh,
Part of the requirements of getting a drug approved is I have to look at all the research published on that in the world literature. So I have to have some of it translated from Spanish, some of it translated from German, or whatever, because I got to review it all and be able to tell the FDA I've looked for all potential toxicity worldwide. And so they have the organizations that do that and send me the translations and all that. So it had a nice office with computers on the 3rd floor looking out over Bethesda.
Okay.
And they brought clients into me because they had clients come in and they would be for clinical, and I'd say, oh, you have a toxicologist, and I would get. So I just worked full time basically from there.
Okay. How much of our medicine actually goes back to nature, and how much of it is chemically put together?
It's funny you should ask that because before I started working on my pharmacology degree, I got a master's degree in pharmacognosy, which is natural products chemistry.
Oh, okay.
So
Never heard of it.
I have a degree in that as well.
Okay.
From Ole Miss.
All right.
I spent a lot of time in college. And a lot of our good drugs out there came from animals or plants. I did have the benefit of having lunch with a gentleman whose name I can't remember right now, who worked for Eli Lilly and developed vincristine and vinblastine from the vinca flower. And those essentially cured childhood leukemia. So it used to be when children got leukemia, they died within a year.
Yeah,
And
okay.
there was no cure.
Right.
And he found a cure in those flowers.
How about
Wow.
As a pharmacognosist
Right.
at Lilly. And so, of course, we had him over for lunch and I got to talk to him. You know, so,
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of other examples, but
Michael?
Yeah.
What was
cognosy. Cognosy.
pharmacognosy?
Pharmacognosy.
New word.
And colchicine, which
That's a
was
crossword
used
puzzle word for you.
Colchicine is used for gout, calls
Yeah.
from colchicum from the autumnally crocus bulb. We saw pictures of that being used inside the pyramids. We showed this
Okay.
lump on the foot here, and then someone was holding a crocus bulb, and then the guy later it was one of the first.
So, everybody has seen these drug commercials on TV, and the guy's talking really fast, and he's talking about all the side effects and all that stuff.
Right.
And it was like when we first saw that, it was just like, what are they doing? But it's of all those things that you've seen advertised on TV, can you identify some or any that you were involved with the FDA approval?
No, I can't. As you can well imagine, I've had to sign a lot of non-disclosure
That's not my
agreements.
question. I'm not asking who they were. I'm asking, did you have some?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Part of the fun, even after I retired, is to watch these commercials and sit there and say, oh, I developed that one.
Yeah.
I worked on that one. I developed that one. Those have kind of, I've been retired 16 years now, so there aren't many of those. Commercials are usually coming about new drugs.
Gotcha.
And so and most of these coming out now are antibodies formed, human antibody formed, rather than large molecules, which is what I worked on. So I don't get to see many of those anymore.
Yeah, no large molecules.
No.
Listen, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much for inviting us out here and sharing the view and the story.
I enjoyed
Had
it.
a great time.
I did too.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So, Alton.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Alton,
Yes, sir.
what'd you think of the toxicology?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. That's a smart man.
yeah.
And he's smart in a lot of different things, just not what he talked to us about. But, toxicology, let's say, for instance, now that's not a word that runs around with people that I know that we exchange back and forth. So, I might hear it on CSI or something. And so, that's the first time I ever met anybody that had anything to do with poison that I know of.
Now, hang on a second.
Yeah.
as a nurse,
Yeah.
we've heard about these guys all along.
Okay.
We're very familiar with all that
All
stuff.
right. Okay.
And you said something. He was what? What was the last thing you said?
When?
That's gone.
Now or
Just
up there?
just now.
Oh. Poison. I said about poison.
Poison. Toxicology doesn't have to do with poison.
Right. But that's what thing comes to your mind when you're
That's
watching
what
the
thing comes to your
CSI show.
mind.
Yeah. Right.
To the nursing mind and the doctors and stuff, they know exactly what that is.
Okay. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So yeah, good interview. I thought interesting, very beautiful place.
Yeah.
What a breeze coming through that door. I mean, man, their air conditioning bill must be zero. I mean,
Yeah, you know.
I don't know about the heating bill. That might be a little different.
They kind of live at the top of that mountain, and that's where the wind is.
That's right. You could feel it coming in the front door. You could feel it coming in the back door. Good gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah,